Ethan had never considered himself brave. He was just a simple man living in a small city, working long hours in his workshop, fixing machines and building things no one else could. Life was quiet, ordinary, and safe exactly the way he liked it. But that rainy evening, everything changed. The rain fell in thick sheets bouncing off the cracked pavement and forming little rivers in the alleys. Ethan hurried home, hunched under a small umbrella, his coat soaked through, when he heard it, a low, desperate grunt coming from a nearby alley. Curiosity made him pause. He could have ignored it, continued on his way, but something in that sound stopped him. At the far end of the alley, struggling with a heavy wooden crate, was a woman. She was small and fragile looking, but her movements showed strength as if she had been trained to carry impossible weights. Her hair clung to her wet face, and her clothes were drenched and torn at the edges. She looked up when she noticed Ethan, her eyes wide with surprise. They were golden, striking and strange, glowing faintly even in the dim light of the city lamps. Ethan blinked, unsure if he was imagining it. "Do you need help?" he asked, stepping closer. His voice sounded small in the vast empty alley, but she hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "Please, it's very heavy," she said, her voice soft yet commanding, as if every word carried weight. Ethan rushed forward, and together they lifted the crate. The weight was immense, far heavier than it looked, and for a moment he thought they might not manage it. But she adjusted her grip and they moved together, step by careful step, until they reached a safer spot near a stacked row of abandoned crates. As they set the heavy load down, Ethan noticed how tired she looked. Her shoulders trembled slightly and she shivered from the rain. Without thinking, he removed his soaked coat and draped it over her small frame. She looked at him with an expression he couldn't read. Gratitude, yes, but also something else. Something older, wiser, almost infinite. "Thank you," she whispered. The words were simple, but they resonated in the empty alley, echoing softly against the walls. Ethan smiled awkwardly, rubbing the back of his neck. "No problem. I just saw you struggling," he said. It was strange. He felt as if meeting her wasn't random, as if the universe had nudged him into this moment. But he shook the thought away. Life wasn't usually like this. People didn't usually have glowing eyes or carry mysterious crates in dark alleys. She studied him for a long moment, as if measuring his character, his heart, his very soul. Then she nodded once sharply and started to walk away. Ethan opened his mouth to say something, but she stopped and turned slightly, her gaze catching his. "You are kind. That is rare," she said. And then she disappeared into the misty rain, almost as if she had melted into the night. Ethan stood there staring after her, feeling an odd emptiness. He didn't know why, but the encounter left a mark on him. A strange warmth in his chest, a feeling that he had just touched something extraordinary. For the rest of the walk home, he couldn't stop thinking about her. Who was she? Why had she been alone in the alley carrying such a heavy crate? And why had her eyes seemed to look right through him, as if she knew him in ways he didn't understand? When he reached his apartment, soaked and shivering, Ethan tried to put the encounter out of his mind. He told himself it was nothing. Just a woman needing help, that was all. Yet as he dried off and settled near the small warmth of his lamp, he noticed a strange glow on his coat where her golden gaze had touched him. He shivered again, this time not from the cold. Little did Ethan know this simple act of kindness, lifting a crate, offering a coat, giving a few minutes of his time, was about to change his life forever. The woman he helped that rainy night was no ordinary person. She was someone who ruled countless worlds, someone whose life and empire hung in balance, and somehow in helping her, Ethan had unknowingly stepped onto a path that would lead him far beyond the quiet streets of his city, into the heart of the galaxy itself. And the galaxy, it seemed, was waiting for him. Ethan could not stop thinking about the woman with golden eyes. Her gaze haunted him even in his dreams, like she had seen something in him that no one else ever had. He tried to focus on his work, on the machines and tools scattered across his workshop, but his hands trembled as he tried to fix a broken gear. Something told him that encounter was only the beginning. Then, one evening, as he returned home, he found something waiting for him. A small device, unlike anything he had seen before, glowing softly on his doorstep. Curious and cautious, he picked it up. The moment he touched it, a holographic light bloomed in the air, and there she was, Imara, the woman from the alley, now radiant and commanding, appearing as if she had stepped from the stars themselves. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm yet powerful, "I owe you a debt. You helped me when I had no one to rely on. That kindness, it saved me." Ethan stepped back, almost dropping the device. Wait, what? Saved you? He stopped, realizing no words could explain what had happened in that dark alley. "I just helped you because, well, it seemed right." Her eyes softened. "That is why I trust you. Few people act without expecting something in return. You are different." Ethan swallowed hard, unsure of what to say. He had never been trusted by anyone like this before, let alone by a woman whose presence made the room feel larger, brighter, and heavier all at once. She wasn't just thanking him. There was an intensity in her words that made his heart race. I don't understand. Who are you?" he asked, his voice small yet tinged with awe. "I am Imara," she replied. Her gaze seemed to pierce through the air, holding him steady. "I am the Empress of the Zephyrian Dominion. I rule over hundreds of worlds, countless people. And yet, you helped me when I was vulnerable. That is why I've come to ask you to join me." Ethan's jaw dropped. His mind spun. Hundreds of worlds? She ruled a galaxy? This had to be some mistake, some trick. Yet the calm certainty in her eyes left no room for doubt. "You want me to come with you?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Yes," she said simply. "There is much I wish to show you, and perhaps much you can teach me in return. I cannot do it alone. I want you at my side." Before he could ask more questions, the air around him shimmered. A portal formed, rippling like water, bright and impossibly large. Ethan felt his chest tighten. His life, as he knew it, was about to vanish forever. His small apartment, the city streets, even the rain that had brought them together, everything was about to disappear. Fear and excitement collided inside him. Part of him wanted to run, to stay in the familiar world of tools and workbenches, of quiet nights and ordinary struggles. But another part, the part that had lifted a crate in a rainy alley for someone he barely knew, pushed him forward. He had a sense deep in his bones that stepping through that portal was what he was meant to do. With a deep breath, he stepped forward. The world around him shimmered and dissolved into brilliant light. When it faded, he was no longer in his city. He stood on a platform that seemed to float in the void of space, surrounded by stars so bright and close that it felt as if he could reach out and touch them. The platform extended into a massive ship, gleaming silver with edges that shimmered like liquid light. Guards in polished armor bowed silently as Imara led him through the corridors. Each step echoed with power, yet she walked humbly as if the weight of her galaxy did not crush her. Ethan's mind raced. He was a simple man, yet here he was walking beside the ruler of a galaxy, being invited into a life he had never imagined. He felt awe, fear, and a strange sense of destiny all at once. Finally, they reached a chamber filled with views of countless worlds, spinning in silent harmony below. Imara turned to him, her golden eyes softening. "Ethan, this is just the beginning. You helped me when I was invisible, when no one else saw me. Now I ask you to help me shape a galaxy. Not with weapons, but with your heart. Will you?" Ethan looked out at the stars, feeling small and insignificant, yet strangely powerful. He nodded, barely finding his voice. I'll try. I'll help." A smile touched her lips, faint but radiant. In that moment, Ethan realized something incredible. A single act of kindness had brought him here, to the heart of a galaxy, and nothing, no fear, no doubt, could take him back to his old life. The galaxy was waiting, and so was his destiny. Ethan could barely believe what had happened. Only a few hours ago, he had been walking home in the rain, a simple man with ordinary worries. Now he stood aboard a massive starship, surrounded by gleaming walls and windows that showed a galaxy full of twinkling stars and swirling planets. He felt both awe and fear, like he had stepped into a dream too vast to understand. Imara led him through the corridors with quiet grace. Soldiers and servants bowed as she passed, their movements precise and almost ritualistic. She walked as if this was normal, but Ethan could feel the weight of her presence. He had never seen power like this, power that could command worlds, yet she moved without arrogance. Finally, she stopped in a grand chamber, high above the decks, where a holographic map of countless star systems floated in the air. Ethan's jaw dropped. Each glowing point represented a world under her rule, and the realization hit him like a tidal wave. This was not just a leader of a city, or even a planet. She ruled hundreds of worlds. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm but firm, "I need you to understand who I am. I am Imara, Empress of the Zephyrian Dominion. My duty is to protect these worlds, to guide my people, and to maintain peace across countless systems. And yet, despite all this power, I am human. I am flawed. I make mistakes. And that is why your actions matter. Ethan staggered backward, overwhelmed. You rule a galaxy? You're like, I don't even know how to. His words stumbled over themselves. He felt small, insignificant, and completely out of place. The reality of what he had done in the alley, the simple act of helping her, now carried unimaginable weight. Yes, she replied softly, almost sadly. I could command fleets, destroy planets, or bend civilizations to my will. But none of that would matter if I lost my humanity. That night in the rain, you reminded me what it means to be human. Your kindness. It reached me in a way that no power or title ever could. Ethan's heart pounded. He had always believed in helping people because it was right, not because it mattered to someone powerful. And yet, here he was, standing before someone who could reshape the universe. And she said his small act of kindness had changed her. I didn't do anything special, he murmured. I just helped. Imara smiled faintly, and it was like sunlight breaking through clouds. You see, Ethan, that is what makes you extraordinary. Most people help when it benefits them. You helped because it was right. That is a rare gift and one I will never forget. He looked at her, searching her golden eyes for understanding. But why me? Why would someone like you care about me? Her gaze softened, but the power in it never wavered. Because, Ethan, even rulers need reminders of what truly matters. Empires can rise and fall, fleets can fight endless wars, but the heart is what shapes the galaxy. You reminded me of that, and now, I want you to help me. Not as a ruler, but as someone who can show me the human side of leadership. Ethan swallowed hard. His life had been ordinary, small, even forgettable. And yet here he was, chosen not because of his skills or his strength or his wealth, but because of his heart. The thought made him tremble. He had never felt so honored or so unprepared. You really mean that? He asked quietly. Imara stepped closer. Every word. You are the first person in a long time who has reminded me that the universe is not just about power and control. It is about compassion, courage, and connection. And that is why I brought you here. Ethan looked around at the swirling stars outside the chamber. Each light represented billions of lives, and for the first time in his life, he understood the magnitude of what one person's action could mean. He had helped a stranger in an alley. That simple choice had led him here, to a galaxy beyond imagination, standing beside a woman who was more powerful than any king, any leader, any hero in history, and yet, she needed him. A strange mix of fear, awe, and pride filled him. He realized something powerful. The galaxy was enormous, terrifying, and beautiful, and now a small human like him had a place in it. And maybe, just maybe, he could help shape it. Not with weapons or strategy, but with the same simple qualities that had guided his life so far. Kindness, courage, and heart. Imara watched him, her expression unreadable, yet full of something he couldn't name. Ethan, she said softly, the galaxy is bigger than you or me. But together, maybe, we can make it better. Ethan nodded, feeling a warmth spread through him. For the first time, he understood that sometimes a single act, done without thought of reward, could change the course of the universe. And in that moment, he chose to step fully into this new, unimaginable life. The next morning, Ethan woke to a world unlike anything he had ever imagined. Sunlight streamed through the massive windows of the starship's quarters, reflecting off walls that seemed alive with soft golden light. Outside, planets spun silently in the void, stars sparkling like distant diamonds. It was beautiful, but it also terrified him. Every decision made here affected millions of lives. Every word could tip the balance of entire civilizations. Imara arrived quietly, her presence calm yet commanding. Today, she said softly, you will see what it truly means to rule a galaxy. Ethan followed her through the ship's winding corridors, past soldiers who moved with precision and citizens who bowed respectfully. They entered a vast chamber where a council of leaders waited, governors, generals, and diplomats from dozens of planets. Each of them was powerful in their own right, and all of them turned to stare at Ethan with curiosity and suspicion. Why is this human here? One of the governors demanded sharply, his voice echoing across the chamber. He has no experience, no knowledge of our worlds. He cannot possibly influence our galaxy. Ethan felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He had not expected this, had not thought of what it would mean to be in the presence of such authority. He was just a man from a small city, yet here he was, standing beside the ruler of countless worlds, expected to have a place in this grand, dangerous game. Imara's eyes glimmered as she turned toward the council. "He has already influenced our galaxy," she said, her voice calm and firm. "He reminded me of something I had almost forgotten, that power is meaningless without compassion, that a ruler's strength is measured by the care they show for their people, not by fear or force." The room was silent. Some council members exchanged doubtful glances. Others sneered. Ethan's heart pounded. He could feel their skepticism, their disbelief, and yet Imara's unwavering confidence gave him courage. "You have no idea what you are asking of me," he said quietly, almost to himself. "I am not a leader. I don't know politics or strategy or anything about all of this." Imara's hand touched his arm lightly, grounding him. "You know what most of these leaders have forgotten? That is more important than any strategy, Ethan. Sometimes a simple human perspective is worth more than armies." One of the generals scoffed. "This human? You trust him over us? Over centuries of experience?" Ethan straightened, a surge of courage rising in him. He remembered the rainy alley, the crate, the simple choice to help someone who needed it. "I may not know your politics," he said, his voice steady now, "but I know people. And sometimes people need honesty, not fear. They need kindness, not threats. If we want loyalty, not just obedience, that is how we earn it." A hush fell over the room. Ethan could see doubt slowly giving way to curiosity. Some of the leaders exchanged surprised glances, as if realizing that perhaps he was right. Imara's gaze held him steady, proud, as if she had known all along that his words would carry weight. The meeting lasted hours. Governors argued, generals demanded strategies, diplomats negotiated fiercely, but Ethan stayed by Imara's side, quietly offering insight, reminding her to consider not just victories and losses, but the lives at stake, the people who would be affected. Each time she listened, she nodded, sometimes smiling faintly, because his perspective reminded her of why she had become a ruler in the first place: to protect, to guide, and to serve, not just to dominate. By the end of the day, Ethan was exhausted yet exhilarated. He had faced a world far beyond anything he had imagined, yet somehow he had held his own. More importantly, he had made a difference. Imara looked at him as they left the chamber. "You see," she said softly, "you are more than you think." You reminded them and me that even in a galaxy of power, it is the heart that matters most. Ethan smiled faintly, still catching his breath. "I just try to do what's right," he said. Imara's golden eyes softened. "And that is why you are extraordinary, Ethan. Even rulers, even empires need reminders of what is right. You are my reminder." As they walked through the corridors, the stars outside shining brilliantly, Ethan realized that his life had changed forever. He was no longer a simple man from a small city. He was part of something greater, a galaxy full of people, choices, and responsibilities. And he knew, deep in his heart, that this was only the beginning of the journey. Even in a universe of unimaginable power, sometimes it was the smallest human acts, the simplest choices that could shine the brightest. Days later, the peace of the Zephyrian Dominion was shattered. Alarms blared across the starship, echoing through corridors and chambers alike. Ethan was in the strategy room with Imara when a fleet of warships appeared on the galaxy's edge, heading straight for one of her border planets. Panic spread through the council like wildfire. "This is an act of war," one of the generals shouted, slamming his fist on the table. "We must strike back immediately. Destroy their fleet before they reach our planet." Imara remained calm, her golden eyes scanning the stars on the holographic map. Her hand rested lightly on the console, steady and deliberate. "No," she said quietly but firmly. "We cannot rush into blind retaliation. There are innocents on that planet, families who have done nothing wrong. Violence should be our last choice." The room erupted with objections. Advisors shouted. Weapons officers demanded action. And even some of her most trusted generals looked at her as if she were making a mistake. Ethan, standing silently behind her, felt the weight of fear and tension pressing against his chest. He had never faced anything like this. The lives of millions were at stake, and every decision could mean death for thousands. He swallowed hard, then spoke. "Imara, maybe there's another way." His voice shook at first, but then grew steadier as he found courage. I know you're a great ruler, but maybe you don't need to fight them. Maybe showing mercy, talking to them could save lives and even gain loyalty. Fear can make people obey, but respect and kindness can make them follow. Imara turned to him, her expression unreadable. Do you truly believe that, Ethan? That talking could stop a war? I do, he said quietly. I know it sounds impossible, but sometimes people respond to honesty more than threats. You've already shown me that. Maybe they'll listen to you if you reach out instead of striking first. For a moment, silence fell over the room. Then slowly Imara nodded. Very well. We will try your way. Ethan watched as she activated a communications channel, sending a direct message to the opposing fleet's leader. The words she spoke were simple, honest, and fearless. She offered aid to those who surrendered and promised protection for civilians caught in the conflict. She spoke not as a commander giving orders, but as a human appealing to the humanity in others. Across the galaxy, on the enemy ships, something remarkable happened. The aggressive posture of the fleet softened. Ships slowed, weapons were lowered, and confusion spread among the enemy commanders. For the first time, they heard reason instead of threats, compassion instead of rage. Back on the command deck, Ethan held his breath as he watched the enemy commander respond. After tense minutes, the warships began to retreat. The crisis ended without the destruction everyone had feared. Cheers erupted from the council, but Imara remained composed, her eyes still on the stars, reflecting both relief and contemplation. You really saved them, she said softly, turning to Ethan. All of them. Millions of lives spared because of your words. Ethan shook his head, feeling overwhelmed. I didn't do anything. I just suggested another way. You're the one who did it. You have the power. I just reminded you to think about people. Imara's hand touched his shoulder gently. And that is exactly why it worked. Your perspective reminded me that even rulers, even empires, cannot forget the human heart. Sometimes the smallest voices make the greatest difference. That night, as the alarms fell silent and the stars outside glimmered peacefully, Ethan realized something profound. The galaxy, vast and dangerous as it was, could be changed by something as simple as courage and compassion. And he had played a part in it. He had helped a ruler see beyond fear and strategy, and in doing so saved countless lives. Imara watched him from across the room, her golden eyes soft with gratitude and something deeper. You are extraordinary, Ethan, not because you have power or titles or armies, but because you remind me and everyone else that even in the darkest times, kindness and courage matter. Ethan smiled faintly, feeling both humbled and proud. The galaxy was enormous, filled with conflict, danger, and uncertainty. But he had learned that even a single human heart, acting with honesty and compassion, could make a difference. That night, as he looked out at the stars, he thought of the rainy alley where it had all begun. A simple choice, a small act of kindness had brought him here, to the heart of the galaxy, standing beside a woman whose power was unimaginable, yet whose humanity had been rekindled by his own simple humanity. And in that moment, Ethan understood the truth. Even in a universe ruled by empires and fleets, it was the human heart that held the greatest power of all. In the days that followed the crisis, life aboard the starship slowly returned to a quiet rhythm, but Ethan could feel that nothing would ever be ordinary again. Every corridor, every chamber, every view of the spinning stars reminded him that he was no longer a man from a small city. He was part of something vast, a galaxy of people, choices, and consequences, and yet, despite the enormity of it all, there was something grounding about Imara's presence beside him. She moved through the ship with the grace of someone who had carried the weight of countless worlds on her shoulders. Soldiers and citizens alike bowed in respect, but when she looked at Ethan, she treated him as an equal, someone whose perspective mattered, someone whose humanity reminded her of what truly counted. And that made Ethan feel something he had never experienced before: belonging. One evening, he found himself on the observation deck, gazing out at a planet glowing softly beneath the stars. Imara joined him silently, her presence calm and reassuring. For a long moment, they watched the world below, the silence speaking louder than words. Finally, she broke it. You've changed my perspective, Ethan, she said quietly. I have seen galaxies fought wars and made impossible decisions. But you remind me why I fight. Not for power, not for glory, but for people, for what is right. Ethan turned to her, his heart pounding. I never expected any of this. I just helped someone because it felt right. I didn't know it could matter. This much, her golden eyes softened. It matters more than you realize. You are human, Ethan, and that is your greatest gift. You see the world as it should be, not just as it is. You remind me that even an empire cannot survive without compassion. For the first time, Ethan allowed himself to feel the full weight of their connection. He realized that their bond was not just about politics or power. It was about understanding, trust, and the courage to be vulnerable. In a galaxy where decisions could destroy worlds, they had found in each other a kind of safety, a shared humanity that could withstand even the greatest storms. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan became more confident in his role beside her. He attended council meetings, helped mediate disputes, and even suggested solutions that surprised even the most experienced advisors. He was still a simple man in many ways, but his honesty, his courage, and his heart carried a weight that could rival the strongest fleets. One night, as the ship glided silently through a nebula of sparkling gases, Imara placed her hand lightly on Ethan's. "You know," she said softly, "I could command the galaxy alone, but it would be empty without you. You remind me that leadership is not just about control. It is about connection, about caring, about heart." Ethan felt warmth spread through him. "I never thought that someone like me could matter in a galaxy like this. But with you, I feel like I do." She smiled faintly, a rare human smile that reached her golden eyes. "You do, Ethan, more than you will ever know. You are my reminder of hope, my guide when I falter, my connection to what is truly important." For the first time, Ethan understood the full power of their partnership. He realized that it was not just the galaxy that needed her leadership, but she needed his humanity. And in return, he found purpose and meaning beyond anything he had ever imagined. Together, they were stronger than the sum of their parts. That night, as stars stretched infinitely outside the observation windows, Ethan whispered quietly, almost to himself, "I never expected to find someone who sees me, really sees me." Imara looked at him, her eyes warm with understanding. "And you have seen me, Ethan, not just the ruler, not just the power, but me. And that is more than anyone else has ever done." For the first time, Ethan felt truly seen, truly valued, not for what he could do, but for who he was. And in the vast infinite galaxy, that connection, human, honest, and real, was more powerful than any fleet, any weapon, or any empire. They stood together in silence, watching the stars, and Ethan realized something extraordinary. Sometimes, the greatest journeys are not across space, but into the hearts of those we trust and care for. And he had found in Imara a place where his heart could finally belong. Years passed, yet for Ethan, it felt like only moments had slipped by. The galaxy had grown quieter under Imara's rule, not because of fear or force, but because of compassion, courage, and honesty, the very qualities he had brought to her side. Planets that were once on the brink of rebellion now flourished. Trade routes thrived, wars were prevented, and the people of countless worlds whispered of the human who had changed the Empress. Ethan had never imagined his life would turn out like this. A simple craftsman, a man from a small city, now stood at the heart of a galaxy, shaping futures with the ruler of millions. And yet he never felt powerful. He only felt responsible to the people, to Imara, and to the choices that had brought him here.